One more over. We gave it. No, we gave everybody a little more room this morning.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. If we just have two people miss every meeting, we'll all have this much room. Or the other, at one point, the other thing the board said was they could just kick us off the table and have all that room. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. It is 8:32 and just switched to 8:33 according to my computer. I'm going to kick off our meeting this morning. Just on a couple housekeeping things, we have with us Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chair of our informal conference, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Lynn Fouché, I believe will be with us shortly, and Dr. Beth N. Davenport. The first thing that we have on our agenda this morning is a public hearing just to accept any verbal comments that anyone has on the public notice that was sent out. All the board members have a copy at their seats of a brief version of the proposed rule change that we have in place. Once again, our plan on this is to accept any verbal comments. Today, we will continue to have written comments that can be submitted until April 14th at noon, at which point we'd expect the board to take a final vote on how they would like to proceed on these proposed changes. At this time, the package you'll see, there's some actually over here on the side table for any of you guys that want an extra copy. These proposed changes, we followed the Administrative Procedures Act, have sent out public notice in the newspaper, have had them on our website. I've answered a few questions for clarification for folks that have called about them, but you will see there are changes to 5 different areas of the Code of Arkansas rules for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. The first one is the description of board members according to Act 938 of 2025, mirroring some statutory changes. There's a section to add offsite order entry authority and ability for retail pharmacies. There's a section that is updating emergency kit rules around access to drugs, as well as adding in access for emergency kits to medical detoxification facilities according to Act 637 of 2025. There's a section updating our compounding rules, getting away from some outdated language that we've had on the books for some time that we are cleaning up, as well as having updates in there according to Act 961 of 2025 to allow 503A pharmacy facilities to obtain products from 503B facilities that are permitted with the state of Arkansas for further dispensing to patients. And then the last section, it is updates to the pseudoephedrine and ephedrine sales rules that we have on file. Many of the changes in that are basically just pointing back to the statutory language so that if there are any updates in the statutory language, we would mirror that exactly. At this time, I would invite anyone who wants to make any comments for or against these rules up to the table. I know we got a couple of folks with us. I think you ladies know the drill, that if you'll come up and the first test of the day is if you hit the push button and release, it will turn green. And then if you don't mind introducing yourselves, because I have to take notes to give back to BLR and board and everybody else.
My name is Kaylee Wallace. I am a director on the pharmacy practice compliance team for Walmart Home Office.
And I'm Shelley Testison, Senior Director for Pharmacy Practice Compliance at Walmart.
And go right ahead, girls.
Great. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak on this today. While we support all of the changes being proposed, we have prepared a comment specific to 160-2408. Walmart strongly supports the Arkansas Board of Pharmacy's proposal to delete outdated language with specific required duties to document a determination to dispense ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, or phenylpropanolamine to patients. We also support the proposed revision of subsection 160-2408 to avoid conflicts with Arkansas statute and keep the rules aligned as the law evolves. We appreciate the board's leadership in modernizing these regulations and ensuring they align with current law and real-world pharmacy practice. The proposed changes clean up provisions that no longer reflect current statutory requirements and eliminate potential conflicts as the law evolves. This alignment provides clarity and consistency, not just today, but as statutory requirements change in the future. For patients, this means fewer delays and less confusion at the pharmacy counter. When rules are clear and streamlined, pharmacists can spend less time navigating regulatory complexity and more time focused on patient counseling, safety, and care. Patients benefit from efficient service and confidence that decisions are grounded in current law and professional judgment. From an operational standpoint, these updates give pharmacies greater certainty and flexibility while preserving strong safeguards against misuse. By removing outdated mandates, the board is helping Arkansas pharmacies of all sizes operate more consistently and efficiently. Importantly, these changes do not weaken existing protections. Instead, they ensure the regulatory framework remains clear, coherent, and responsive to evolving statutory standards. Overall, this is a thoughtful, pragmatic rule update that reflects pharmacy input and supports high-quality patient care across Arkansas. For these reasons, we strongly encourage the board to finalize the rules as proposed and appreciate your continued commitment to patients and the practice of pharmacy. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Any chance you want to share the letter? You don't have to. I've got my notes. I can go back and watch it as well. But if you share the letter, I'll
Absolutely.
also include it in the packet along with my summary.
Yes, we can share that. And then
Okay.
we also plan on providing some written comment
Oh,
later
okay.
too. Yeah.
And well,
So-
you could just probably put it into that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Any other comments on anything else for that?
No other comments at this
Okay.
time.
Right. I don't think we have anybody else here to comment. I will tell the board members, I have had just a few inquiries about different sections that I think I've been able to answer. There was one about if the emergency kit applied to home health agencies. And I think the person that was looking at was just confused that when you are looking at the structure of rule changes, you have like small a, small b, small c, and then it went down, and in the numbering, they didn't realize the next section was a small d, which separated it from home health agencies. So I was able to clear that up. I have had a couple of questions about also on emergency kits that, you know, the DEA has for years made it very, very clear that before you can take something from an emergency kit, the pharmacy who is the owner of those drugs has to have an order. And we have said that would be true for controls and non-controls. If you don't have an order for that drug and it's removed from the kit, that is diversion technically. And we've had pharmacies that have been very concerned that they have a timeline that they have to replace the drugs in the emergency kit. But if they don't have an order for it, they don't know it's been removed from the emergency kit. So it puts them in a catch-22. They don't know to replace it. So we do have language in there that it's determined to be diversion if you don't have an order or a prescription in place for those drugs. And it should be reported to, you know, a licensure agency as well as, you know, to us to track. So if there's a pattern of some sort of abuse, it is, you know, it's an obvious key for there needs to be some retraining in that. So I think there are some questions of, would that only be controls or would that be all drugs? And my thing is, well, you can't take a medication and administer it to someone without a prescription or an order for that to be done. I think that was consistent with the board's direction been previously.
Question for clarification.
Yeah.
And not to get too hung up on the burden. Maybe it was just at the time that I had a brain block and it wasn't set in. But
Thank you. Regarding the offsite order entry,
Uh-huh.
conceptually, are we basically changing from the way that we're doing retail offsite order entry now to
directly mirror what happens in a hospital.
It is almost a direct mirror. The couple of differences, the board specifically asked that the person be an employee. So we added in that language. So it couldn't just be a random pharmacist. They'd have to be employed by the pharmacy in order to do it, which would match most of the requests for this were situations we have, you know, a corporation that, you know, if they build a data center and they have pharmacists in it and those pharmacists are either here enabling them to do it for their pharmacies in other states, or if it's in another state, allowing those Arkansas licensed pharmacists only to do it here, but they're employees of the corporation. It would not allow some of the approach that we've seen elsewhere where there's a third-party independent company that is just doing order review in hospitals, but that is also not for like patient dispensing. That's for patient administration, where you have a physician co-signing on orders at some point as well. So that was kind of the differentiation.
So if somebody's doing offsite from an out-of-state place, but they're Arkansas pharmacists. I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be
Yeah.
data center, it could be their kitchen table.
The situation has to be approved, and I would anticipate that the board's going to set criteria just like what they've done with hospital. I think that you're going to have a couple of the companies that are going to be in line immediately to say, we would like approval for our data center to be able to do this, which if we've already authorized it for the current offsite order entry, I think that it's already covered. But what we did with hospital, when it went outside of those brick and mortar facilities, it was having a conversation to ensure that there is privacy protection, that it's not, the main questions were that you're doing it in an area that you're not exposing patient information, which would be, you have to agree, you're not doing it in an area that would expose patient information, that it's protected, and it's only the licensed individual that can do it. But yes, I modeled it after what we've done for hospitals. Any other questions? That's all we got for now. I'll let you guys know the 14th, what else we receive. I've had nothing negative so far. I'm hoping that we can continue our role with that, but all of these things are either directly from statute or they have been things that industry has had a direct request of the board to consider.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kirkland.
All right, we'll close that up.
Our meeting on the 14th. Is that live?
Well, we were going to do it by Zoom, except if anybody wants to come here, since we're not taking public verbal comments at that time, it's basically a final decision of what you want to do with the comments that were sent. And if we have something, if we get a plethora of comments that make it appear controversial, we may just have to regroup and reset another meeting for the board to do a final consideration, which we'd be willing to do. Yep, one.
About 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 more weeks.
That's soon.
But we wanted to be sure we had an opportunity when we had a live meeting in person to have people
So
come
the
in.
duration of the meeting will depend on the volume of.
I think it'll be quick unless something comes out of the woodwork I'm not expecting. That's it for me. I think we may have our first person here. Any BLR questions? Okay. Yeah. I'll be happy to answer them. That's all it's been so far. Did you get one of our packets? I know you've got the electronic one, but I did just the packet to show all the affected areas so that it's a little bit cleaner for everybody.
Okay, safe travels. Oh, y'all
Oh, they're
gonna
gonna-
stay?
They're
Oh,
gonna
you
hang out and
spoke
watch
on
now.
vacation. Okay, I thought you were leaving. Okay, what about?
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, tell them you were here till noon.
How are you doing?
Be my first one then. All right. How you doing, Ms. Stevenson?
Doing fine.
Good to hear it. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things about kind of who you're talking with this morning and how this procedure works. First of all, on this side of the table, we're all staff members. We work here at the Board of Pharmacy. On the other side of the table, we have several of our pharmacy board members, starting at the far end with Dr. Beth Ann Davenport, Dr. Lynn Fouché, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chair of our informal conference, and Dr. Brian Jolly immediately to my left. In this process, we see that you've got an application to be a pharmacy technician in the state of Arkansas. And I'm flipping pages, and you told us nothing was going to come back on that, but we did find some stuff, which is why you're here today to talk about with the board. In a moment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Vales, who's our attorney, and she'll give us an overview of what was in your application, your background check. And then the board members are going to want to talk to you about that. At some point, like we all may have questions back and forth, but at some point they're going to tell us what they would like to do with your application. They could say they want to approve it, they want to deny it, they would approve it under some criteria. They're not going to make a decision on it at this time. We don't know what they're going to say until they do that. Most important thing for you is you can either agree or disagree with whatever it is they say. If you agree, we go forth with whatever they've asked of us. If you disagree, it gives you a chance to kind of say one or two things, either forget this and walk away or request a hearing before the full board at a later date. The full board and formal hearing is all 8 members of the board. So it's a couple more folks, a hearing officer, a court reporter. We swear everybody in as witnesses, and it's just a more formalized procedure, kind of like going to court. It's always asked, do you have any questions about how this works?
No, sir.
I realize you've never sat in that chair. So during this, if you come up with a question or something seems confusing, by all means, like wave your hands, get our attention. We'll try to help answer any questions you have.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Vales?
All right, we're bringing Miss Stevenson in for consideration today. There were some items that came up on her background. First one, on September 14, 2013, she was arrested and charged with theft of property, a Class A misdemeanor. According to her statement, she was stealing shirts from the mall. On September 18th of that year, she entered a plea of guilty and was sentenced to 12 months suspended sentence and $250 fine and court cost. Then on August 4, 2016, she was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct, Class C misdemeanor. According to her statement, she was defending her pregnant friend and ended up fighting a lady. On August 10th of 2016, she entered a plea of guilty and was sentenced to pay a fine of $50 in court cost. On November 10th, 2018, she was arrested and charged with possession of controlled substance misdemeanor, marijuana. According to her statement, her boyfriend made her hide weed in her clothes. Then on November 14, 2018, she entered a plea of guilty and was sentenced to 12 months suspended sentence and $300 fine and court cost. The charge remains on her record. And again, she didn't disclose these arrests on her application.
Thank you. You want to tell us in your own words what happened on these incidents, please?
Yes, ma'am. I was young and dumb when I was stealing them shirts. I wasn't nothing but a teenager, hanging out with a lot of friends from school. The other charge from when I was fighting for my friend, she was pregnant. She was almost having a baby, and some random woman just come up trying to fight her. So I defended my friend and ended up going to jail. And the weed incident with my boyfriend, I didn't want to do it or whatever, but he made me do it. So the police officer already knew who he was and what I had anyway. So I just gave it up to him, and they ended up just giving me that charge.
Okay. So what have you been doing since? What type of, do you have a job now?
No, ma'am, I don't have a job now. I was working at UMS housekeeping for 3 years. I recently just stepped down because I wanted to spend more time with my kids because I didn't get the chance to just spend time with them. And this spring break, I just said I'm just gonna put everything behind right now and just focus on my kids. And I was doing this in the midst of all of that. So I just wanted to do something different. And I got my phlebotomist license. I haven't really too much searched anything for it because it's been hard finding something in it. And I just been picking little traits.
So why did you decide on pharmacy?
I feel like that's more convenient for me because of the timing. Like I was overnight at UMS doing PACU. And, you know, I work right literally, I stay right literally up the street from Walgreens and Walmart and stuff like that. And I feel like there's more convenient time for me because my kids go to school at 7 and she get out at 2 and I can just pick them up from my greenhouse when I get off of work.
And you haven't been in any more trouble?
No, ma'am.
What about not hanging out with the same crowd?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions of this candidate?
It seems most of these incidents are 10 years or older, at least 2 of them. The one relating to marijuana is the most concerning. It has direct impact on controlled substance. It would seem to me, though, that I've been arrested 3 times and pled guilty. I would remember that. Now, you said in your statement, you forgot about it,
Forgot about what?
about the charge and that was the reason why you didn't disclose the arrest.
I told the lady, I did forget about it because I didn't think it was on my record or anything. Like, that stuff was years ago and a lot of things happened to me over the years to where some things I just put in the past and don't even worry about it.
Well, in pharmacy, it's real important that you pay attention to detail, and the question it said, have you ever been cited, arrested, charged, not just convicted, but, and it also talks about, has it ever been expunged? So,
I don't be knowing what them things be meaning. Like when I did all the things that I did, like I paid my court costs, I did all of this stuff. I did the probation and all the other stuff they asked me to do in court. I didn't know that it would have been on my record.
okay.
But did they, I mean, they arrested you?
Oh, time out.
And on any of these, did they like put you in handcuffs?
Other than the 2018, they put me in handcuffs.
Put you in the back of a car,
And
took you downtown?
2016 with the fight, they took me down there in handcuffs. But both time I got OR'd out.
But yeah, but it's fascinating because I know what you mean by OR, but a lot of people don't understand that technical thing because they've never been in any trouble that they had to go out on their own recognizance. But the very simple question in there is, have you ever been arrested? And I'm trying to figure out if you forgot that you had been arrested, because I'm sure you know what that meant. So you forgot you had been arrested.
No, I ain't forget I've been arrested, but I'm saying I forgot about the charges or whatever. I didn't know it was gonna be on my record.
But I know I'm probably trying to split hairs, but if the question is, have you ever been arrested? And your answer is no, because you don't think we're going to see the charges, it makes it look like you were lying to us on purpose. So if someone asked you when you were interviewing for a job, have you ever been arrested? If you say no, because you don't think the charges are going to show up, then that's being dishonest. And that's the way it looks when you put it on an application like this. I understand you may not realize what expunged means or sealed or something, but if you know what OR means, you know some technical jargon about being arrested. So you know you're arrested, you know you had charges and that you had to pay fines for them. So it's difficult to put the two together that you don't remember it, but you know the technical jargon of it. Does that make sense?
Make completely sense.
Okay.
Just a couple related questions. When was the last time you used marijuana?
I smoke every day.
Do you smoke every day? Okay, do you have a medical marijuana card?
No, and my doctor's been trying to get me to get one, but I think, yeah, my opinion of it, and I tell people this all the time because I don't lie about me smoking marijuana at all. Like I had my gun license and I thought that by me having my gun license, I can't get my marijuana card. So that's why I never tried to even get it.
But
So where do you get the marijuana that you smoked, for example, like you smoked yesterday? Okay, where do you get that marijuana?
Right.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we deny this application.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes.
Ms. Bales, we'll reduce that to writing and send her a letter.
Just so you know, so that you don't walk away without an explanation, you can't be a current user of marijuana and work in healthcare. There are requirements that there are certain people, police officers, teachers, healthcare workers, that would include pharmacy technicians, that while you have the right to have a medical marijuana card, now you don't have the right to buy it off the street because that's basically a crime. But even if you had a medical marijuana card, you would have to choose between, do I want to be a pharmacy technician or do I want my medical marijuana card? And so that's the reason why we made that decision.
Yes, sir.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Got somebody else.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right, should be under tab 3 for us. How are you doing, Miss Young?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I hope it's starting to rain outside, but I doubt it is.
It's Friday.
Oh, yeah. You want it done by then. I just want it to knock down some of this pollen.
Yeah.
I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the Board of Pharmacy. I'm going to tell you a little bit kind of who you're talking to at this table today and how this procedure works. On this side of the table, myself, Dr. Brenda McCready, who's our assistant director, and Miss Ashley Bales, who's our attorney here in the office. We're all employees here at the State Board of Pharmacy. Everyone else you see at the front table, these are our pharmacy board members and decision makers today. I've got Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Lenore Newsom. Dr. Newsom is the chair of our informal conference for this meeting. Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Lynn Verche, and Dr. Beth Ann Davenport. We're here today. You had submitted an application for a pharmacy technician or pharmacy technician registration. You told us that nothing would come back, but we did find something on your background, which is what the board members are going to want to talk to you about. In a second, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales. She'll give us an overview of your application, and then we'll all probably have some questions for you. At some point, the board members are going to tell us what they want to do with your application. It could be to approve it, to deny it, to say they'll consider it at another time, that they have the following requirements must be met. We have no idea what they're going to say until they say it. Most important thing for you is you can either agree or disagree with whatever they suggest, since it's an informal conference. If you agree with it, we go forth with whatever it is they've asked us to do. If you disagree with it, then it's your chance to do one of two things. You can kind of basically either say, forget this and walk away, or you could say, I'd like a hearing before the full board at a later date. That's just a more formal procedure. We've got 6 members here today. It could be all 8 that day. Hearing officer, court reporter, swear everybody in, and it's just much more structured like going to court. Always ask, do you have any questions about how this works? I realize you've never sat in that chair during this. If there's something that you go, I don't know what's going on, or I've got a question, by all means, get our attention. We will try to help answer any questions you've got. Okay, Ms. Bales?
And we have brought Miss Young in for consideration this morning. She did not disclose that she had ever been arrested or charged with anything. There was one incident in August 26th of 2000 where she was arrested and charged by the federal government with conspiracy to distribute narcotics, cocaine. On November 1st, 2000, those charges were null pros with conditions. That document is in your packet. It's a motion in order for dismissal. And she discusses it also in her statement, but because she didn't disclose the arrest, we thought it prudent to bring her in today.
Right, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
You want to tell us in your own words what happened?
Sure. But before I tell you what happened, when I filled out this application, I wasn't even aware that this was even under my name. But anyway, back 26 years ago, I went to a birthday party in Dumas, Arkansas, and I was intoxicated. And I had a friend to put me in a hotel room so I could sleep it off. A few hours later, Dumas police knocked on the door and asked me to step out. When I stepped out, they put me in the back of a police cruiser. At the time, I didn't think that I was under arrest because I was honestly, I thought that when I went to jail that I was going to jail for being intoxicated as a minor, for me to sleep it off. And of course, with that, when I went to jail, they never read me my rights. I was never put in handcuffs. When I went to jail, they didn't close my cell. I didn't eat any of the food that they provided for the other inmates. They gave me something totally separate. I never even saw a judge for a bond hearing. So I never thought that I was under arrest. It wasn't until I received a letter a few weeks later that I had to come and talk to the prosecuting attorney's office. And that's when I found out like I was being charged. But at that time, I didn't even think that I was being charged. I just thought I was part of a conspiracy. Okay. During that time, I was polygraphed. They did drug screenings on me. Of course, they found that I had nothing in my system. And of course, at that time, I was 18. And let me put this for the record, I have never been involved in drug trafficking, selling, using of any kind from that point even to my current status. Like I said, when I applied for this application, I never even knew that that was on my record. And right before trial started, they dropped everything. So I wasn't even convicted of it.
I've
And
got a
that was
couple of
pretty much it.
questions.
Sure.
So why did they think you were involved with it? Was it those people you were with?
I'm not even sure because I was with a gentleman. The gentleman that I was with, I never, even right now, I can't tell you if the man sold drugs or not because he told me that he was a licensed electrician. And he even showed me his card, and I've been on some of those sites with him. So I wasn't aware. I don't know if it was, because it was a hotel, I don't know if they was watching someone else privy to us going into that hotel or not. And mind you, I was the only one in that hotel at the time. He wasn't even there.
Or what brings you to the world of pharmacy? Why do you want to be a pharmacy technician?
So I currently work for Walgreens. I am in a small management position, which is a shift lead. I wanted to extend myself as an IS and eventually go into an ESM, which is an emerging store manager. And of course, in order for me to do that, I have to have knowledge of the pharmacy. And of course, I never really thought that I wanted to work in pharmacy at any time, but I'm looking at the benefits of being able to help the patients that come in when it comes down to the meds that they are needing. And of course, with me being in the inventory portion of it, it allows me to have a on-site on counts and making sure that all meds are regulated and are accounted for.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions of this candidate?
Almost 26, yes, sir. I was 18, I'll be 44 Friday. Thank you.
Statement is that you,
I've never I've smoked marijuana before, but I've never, when it comes down to crack cocaine or any of the drugs that they have flowing through the communities, never touched in my life. Go ahead.
when's the last time you smoked marijuana?
Months ago, months ago, long time ago, 9 months ago,
How often?
not often at all. And it's not smoke, I had a gummy. No, I do not.
The marijuana.
My sister has a medical marijuana card. And during that time, we was having family difficulties and she was trying to get me to calm down. Yeah.
Okay, do you know that you can't do marijuana or any drugs, illicit drugs, while being a pharmacy technician?
Wait, excuse me?
You cannot have
Oh, absolutely.
marijuana
Yes.
nor any type of illicit drugs
Yes,
while
ma'am.
being a pharmacy technician.
Drugs are not, that's not my thing. I've never really just been a participant of, drugs like that. Even during that time, I explained to, was telling my sister I didn't even want it at that time, but she was telling me that I needed to. During that time, my father was murdered. It was on TMZ. It was horrific, but yeah, she was just trying to get me to kind of calm down.
Understand your explanation of that, just so you know. Only path to get marijuana is through a medical marijuana card. To get
Yes, sir.
Anything else is the burden.
Yes, sir.
Any comments by anyone else?
And with that comment, you can't have a medical marijuana card and be a pharmacy tech.
Yeah, I
They
don't
don't-
think marijuana would be an issue for me. Like I said, that was a one-time situation. So it's not like I have an addiction or that's something that I do on a consistent basis.
I think because of the social acceptability of marijuana these days, people think of it kind of like you would alcohol, that it's not illegal and that you just kind of use it. So that's the distinction we're trying to make sure that you understand.
Yeah, I fully understand that.
Okay, what is the will of the board?
I'll make a
And-
motion that we grant her a technician or a permit.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any nays? The motion passes. You'll get your license.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you so very much.
And I'll tell you the same thing I tell even like my kids or pharmacy student stuff, because you're going to be in a supervisory position. Because of the social acceptance of it, a lot of folks don't realize that there's an immediate conflict when you work in a pharmacy with access to controlled substances, that it's called a safety or security conscious position. And, you know, that one gummy in a stressful situation, my luck would be 2 days later, I'd get drug tested at work and lose my job, because it's a no tolerance thing. But I mean, that's something you can use as a teaching tool for other people of.
Trust me, this whole situation from the age of, it's,
Yeah, absolutely.
the whole entire thing is a teaching,
Yeah.
you know, like, with my son, which I'm extremely proud of him because he finished school at Euler. He's now working for the
Good.
state with children, you know?
Oh, that's great.
So it's not like my life was surrounded by drugs and
Yeah.
those type of things, you know? And for this to be held over my head and for it to be held over my head for so long, for me not to know, I'm very thankful to you. I'm very thankful.
Well, I thought you were going to say you went down to Ding Dong Daddy days and a party broke out, but because that happens too in doing this.
I wasn't doing any drugs at that time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't have some alcohol. But yeah, no,
Good deal.
so I really do thank y'all.
Thank you for coming in, Ms.
Okay,
Young.
thank you.
Have you not heard of that? I mean, it's like you have like Toad Suck and stuff like in Dumas, it was Ding Dong Daddy days, and it's a huge thing. Oh, yeah. At least one other person knew what I was talking about. There's gonna be people on the internet, like everybody in Dumas everybody that's in Dumas is looking at this going, yes, recognition. Everybody else in the world's going, what did he say? They think it's some South Arkansas euphemism.
Doing all right. Armio.
Armio? Okay. How are you doing? I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the pharmacy board.
Of course.
I'm going to tell you a couple things about kind of who you're speaking with today and how this procedure works. On this side of the table, we are all staff members here at the board. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready is our assistant director. Ms. Bales is our attorney and legal counsel. On the other side of the board, we have 6 of our pharmacy board members who are decision makers here today. We've got Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who is the chair of our informal conference, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Roddy Richmond, Dr. Lynn Fouché, and Dr. Beth Ann Davenport. We're here today with your pharmacy technician application. And as I flipped through this, you did let us know that a couple things would pop back on it. So thank you for being forthright and letting us know that. In a moment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales. She'll give the board members a description of what is in your application. The board members are just now getting a copy of it on their little pads, which is the same thing you've got. Then the board members are going to want to talk to you about this. At some point, they're going to decide what they think they want to do with your application. Since this is an informal conference, you have the chance to either agree or disagree with what they come up with. And it's not something you have to do sitting there right now. But they could say they would approve your application, deny your application, reconsider it at some future date, ask you to do something or get them some paperwork. We don't know what they're going to say until they do. Your choice, if you agree with it, we go forth with whatever they say. If you disagree, then it's kind of your chance to either say, like, forget this and walk away from it, or request a formal hearing before the full board at a later date to basically appeal this decision. Full board is 8 members. Instead of me being up here to be a hearing officer, a court reporter, we swear everybody in, and it's just a more formal procedure, kind of like if you go to court. So I always ask, do you have any questions about how this works?
I don't think so.
Okay, and that's a great way to put it, because I realize you have never sat in that chair and we do this all the time. If you do have a question about something, if we say something and it's just doesn't make sense to you and you want some clarification, by all means, like get our attention, ask any questions you've got, and we'll be happy to help answer them.
Of course.
Ms. Bales?
And we brought Miss Armijo in for consideration today. She did disclose that she had been arrested or charged with a criminal offense. And there are a couple of things that came up on her background check. On February 12th, 2022, she was arrested for domestic battery and public intoxication. Those charges were null prossed on May 12th, 2022, and she was released from probation. On August 20th, 2024, she was arrested for DWI and careless and prohibitive driving. She entered a plea of guilty to the DWI and careless and prohibitive driving, was dismissed. She was sentenced to $500 fine and court costs, 1 day jail with credit for time served, completion of alcohol education or rehab program, and her driver's license was suspended. She did comply with court orders. On August 28, 2025, she was arrested for domestic battery. Those charges were null prossed on the state's motion. And some of these are more recent, and that's why we brought her in today.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing my best.
Okay. You want to tell us about these incidences?
So, it has been made aware to me by more than one psychiatric counsel that I have sought personally that I have been diagnosed with PTSD. I have been undergoing therapy and also have been abstaining from drinking henceforth. Along with that, I am 3 months completely sober from that, and I'm on a normal, regular medication and therapy schedule. These are instances where we were trying to narrow down the correct amount of chemicals necessary for me to not have the responses that could lead to something dire in my realm of actions, unfortunately. But I think we all, as members and people who have practiced medicine at one point in time, understand that sometimes medications interact with people differently. It can be horrible, it can be extraneous, and it can cause those people detriment. So as a person that has undergone a lot of different types of chemical therapy using pharmaceuticals, I am doing my best, along with the help of like my doctors and other medical staff, to find a way to where I can be present in society and be a helpful member of society and not a hindrance. I believe that what has happened in my past should not define me as a person, especially when, for me, and as a person that is human, we all make mistakes. I understand that doing those mistakes has consequences, and I understand that I am fully responsible for my own actions as an adult and as a functioning member of society, to which I have done so with the court. I've reached amicable decisions with them and the state of Arkansas, to which I am not a danger to society. I am not an issue to society. I'm just a person trying to make a living and find a wonderful career to which I can enrich the lives of those around me.
All right. So you haven't been in any type of altercations or anything recently? Have you ever used any illicit drugs?
No,
No marijuana, nothing like that?
no.
Okay.
The only thing that I will test positive is a Schedule 3, which is my Adderall medication, which is what I'm prescribed by my doctor, because I do have ADHD. So that is it.
Does any board members have any questions of this candidate?
What brings you to pharmacy?
I originally practiced veterinary medicine. I was an emergency ICU tech for over a year. I was also an exotic tech for a general practice for about 3 to 6 months.
That phone's not even supposed to ring.
We have one of those in one of my former offices. It's okay. But going from animal medication, I noticed the correlation between that and human medication as well. So I wanted to merely diversify what I already knew in my skill set and see if I can apply it to human medication and human research so that that way I could actually be more of help. Because it's really interesting what I was doing whenever I was a vet tech. Why not bring it into something that's different and new?
You have any jobs lined up?
I have actually applied to a simple pharmacy, like just a Walmart pharmacy to get my feet wet. I have filled prescriptions before. I've had access to IV injectables, anesthesia, medication and monitoring and all that stuff. I do have a couple of professional references I can list as to attest to I've never been let go from a job because of any negligence on my part. I actually have a +2 success rate with my patients. I successfully delivered 2 puppies from 2 different dystocias. I just want to practice medicine, and it's something that my grandmother did back in World War II, and my mother did veterinary medicine since I was a kid.
And anyone else have any questions?
Could you tell us a little bit more about your relationship with alcohol? I know you said you've been 2 months sober. What
Actually,
about
3 months.
3 months, okay.
I had been adjusting my approach to see kind of what it was in terms of the environment, because I do have anxiety along with it. My diagnosis is rather complex, as to probably anybody who has PTSD. So I merely kind of was seeing how I could function. And for me, I've never had a problem with alcohol. I've never been that type of person to do that. The situation around that circumstance was rather unfortunate. It led me to wrecking my vehicle due to a horrible panic attack, to which I passed out behind the wheel because I was trying to get home. And I didn't have a person to call. It's fight or flight. So I decided that there's no need for it anymore. I feel like we as adults, once we reach a certain age, have to understand that the gravity of our actions can really affect what we are meant to do. And so if it's not meant for me, it's not meant for me. That's fine. Sobriety is a choice. Sobriety is discipline. Whenever you practice medicine, you are in a discipline. You have to be able to hold yourself to practicing medicine the right way. You have to sit there and hold yourself to a certain level of standard. That's why I believe with this sobriety and with my new take on everything and weeding out unhealthy influences and getting rid of any type of people that would be a hindrance and or could persuade me otherwise, I feel like I'd be able to practice a better quality of medicine because I myself am able to have a thorough amount of understanding of the meaning of the word discipline.
Can you tell me, on the August 28th, 2025 incident, was alcohol involved with that at all? Had you consumed alcohol at the time that of the domestic battery?
That unfortunately was a very horrible response to somebody else being disorderly in a public space, to which I came home and tried to have my partner calm me down, and that did not go well. We have both sought counsel, and we are both working on ourselves as individuals, as well as our marriage. But that should not define me as a person.
Had you consumed alcohol at the time of the domestic battery?
Not at the time. Prior, because I was in a social setting. But that was it. I was not drunk or under the influence.
Just to follow up on that line of questioning, so you said that that you don't have a history of alcohol problem.
Mm-mm.
You didn't say that, or
No, I do not have a prior history of substance abuse and or alcohol abuse prior to that acknowledgement.
Okay. And in response to Dr. Foucher's question, you said that you were sober for 3 months?
Yes, I'm currently sober for 3 months.
Okay.
I began cutting out last year around November.
So define sober for me. I'm trying to reconcile the statement that you don't have a history of alcohol problems and that you're sober. And so saying that you're sober and that recently for 3 months would tend to imply that prior to that you weren't sober.
Meaning I did have 1 or 2 alcoholic beverages every so often, like any normal adult does. I do work in a bar. I do have to taste my drinks sometimes with our new menus. That's merely what I was doing. There is nothing wrong with that.
So, but you did have an alcohol problem at least once when you were arrested for DWI.
That was a singular isolated incident with that.
Okay, but it's juxtaposed to the question that I asked, did you have any, you said you've had no alcohol problems before, but you did have at least one.
Yes.
Okay.
There was an instance where it was actually documented, yes.
All right, and then there was a question on the application that says, have you been treated for participated in a rehabilitation program? And I thought I read that you, as part of the DWI charge, that you completed an alcohol and rehab program.
It was an alcohol education course, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Because it states completion of alcohol education and or rehab program to have license reinstated from a prohibited or suspended license. Meaning it's not a Class D license, it is merely a license of which you have to have a breathalyzer in the vehicle. You cannot operate that vehicle without testing, without a trace of alcohol or under a certain percentage.
Generally in Arkansas, prior to getting driving privileges back or as part of it, you've got to do like a victim impact education course, and like she's saying about MAD or something like that. So it's not necessarily, it's not rehab, but it's education about alcohol use, things that can go bad with it, drinking and driving, all that.
Okay.
And just one other.
Go right ahead.
Dr. Newsom had asked you a question. Did you have any recent incidents with an altercation like the battery that occurred back in August? I guess I would have considered that to be recent.
Oh, I thought you meant like this year. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not limiting it to the last,
Okay, you're meaning within the last 5 years. I'm sorry.
well, recent is kind of a nebulous term, so I'm just clarifying. So even though it was no process, you don't dispute that the incident occurred, you just weren't charged with it.
The whole incident was him trying to help me calm down. It is a fight or flight response. When anybody is having a PTSD attack, depending upon the circumstances surrounding it, it is different and variable between cases.
And one thing, pharmacy, very diverse. There are a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs. There are certain ones that are going to be very stressful and where you're dealing with people that can be very difficult and upsetting.
That doesn't trigger me.
Well, you just said that you had one where somebody was acting out in a public space and then it caused this. And so I just want to caution you, let me finish. I want to just caution you when you if you are granted a permit today, to be very selective in, the area that you work in, make sure it's an environment that, is suitable for you. Because it can be a high stress environment that can cause a lot of anxiety, even in individuals that don't have any kind of a diagnosis.
Yes, sir. So branching off of what you were saying, I have participated. I was a emergency ICU technician for a veterinary practice, and I was overnights. I saw a variety of cases. I had prior knowledge to having to do like resuscitation and things of that knowledge and sort. Having to deal with difficult clients is something that I had to deal and process with on the daily, because I had to explain the full length of what we were doing in the process of what we were doing to their animal. Having to sit there and deal with difficult people and or clients is something that happens within any walk of life. It happens for me whenever I work as a server, bartender, or barback. There are going to be difficult people everywhere. Being able to recognize the situation that I'm in and isolate it and be able to have a different coping mechanism due to the therapy that I've received is the strides that I'm taking forward to being a functioning member of society. I do appreciate your concern, though.
Anyone else have any comments? What is the will of the board?
I commend the work that she's doing and has done. My concern is that it's all pretty recent. And I think that potentially a little more time passing would be beneficial.
Okay, do you want to allow her to withdraw her application?
That's something that can be done still.
So that it's not denied?
At the same time, if you decided to table it, that's not disciplinary, that
Yep.
So it hasn't been.
It hasn't been denied
Okay.
by staff or otherwise. We brought her here today. So it's one of those things where you said you would reconsider in a couple of years or something with an update. That's not a disciplinary thing that you would generally say.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
something
we're-
that I would, only because we're looking at an issue in 24, an issue in 25, and we're just now in 26. And so for me, that's a trend that I would want to see more time passed.
Yeah. I know a lot of times you guys look at if there are 2 alcohol related incidents within a 5-year period, it's either, potentially a more time issue or a full eval issue. But at the same time, I mean, she's already seen health professionals on other issues. I think it's a timing issue, not necessarily what an eval would show.
Okay, did you want to make that an motion?
Yes, that,
Basically just table it at this time.
yeah, that would be better.
And a second for Dr. Forsythe. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes.
So what they're saying is they're not going to make a decision up or down today. And I think part of what their message on that is they're not necessarily ready to say yes today, but they also don't want to say no and have it look like you had a disciplinary action or an adverse decision by the board. What I'm hearing them say, and part of this is I've heard all this for a couple of decades now. They're not saying no, but they would want to see some more time pass of no alcohol related issues or anything like that before they would reconsider. Now, kind of your choice, and you don't have to make it today because we'll reduce this to writing and send you a letter. You could either accept that they're just not going to make a decision today, or you could appeal it before the full board, which you've already kind of heard 6 of the 8 board members say that, but you could request a hearing before the board. But we'll put all that in writing and send it to you.
Besides waiting for more time passed, is there anything else that I could do to make myself look better besides just the amount of time passed?
I think the main thing, this is my personal opinion, you have the ability to give input as well. I think that a lot of times because of what we see in a pharmacy, which is, and I completely get, like, working in a veterinary office sounds like a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of stress because of all the tough stuff that happens. I mean, I know that from just taking my own animals to the vet and seeing what I've had to deal with him and what friends have had to deal with, emergency surgeries and all that. But pharmacy is regulated in a completely different way from veterinary medicine. Like, veterinary technicians, I think, probably practice at a much higher level of direct interaction with patients and with their owners or caregivers than a lot of times what technicians are doing, because most technicians aren't doing CPR or they're not scrubbing into surgery, things like that. It's more in the preparation of prescriptions to go to people and guide them through the things. And you do that as a veterinary tech as well. I think that the main thing that they're looking for is just a stability of time equation, and I don't know what the perfect approach to that is.
I guess along with that, I've done peer therapy and group. I do attend a Zoom meeting on every Monday that is called Into the Triad for Alcoholics Anonymous. It is something that opens not only a spiritual advocate towards sobriety and or being able to find your own inner peace, but it also allows for meditation and for different ways and approaches to understanding your relationship with alcohol, how you can better be a member of society, how you can understand being sober, and how you can function in adult spaces. There is people who are genuinely sick, and then there are people who have simple mistakes that they have to take accountability for.
Yeah. And I think that the board recognizes that you're taking accountability, for that and owning up to it. I think that they just want to see a little bit more time.
Fair.
I'm not exactly sure what else. I mean, they've kind of given their input on that.
Yeah.
But and like I said, when do you get the letter? If you've got questions about it, give us a call. If you have anything else you want to share with us.
This is perhaps to answer the question of
What can you do to improve your application? You're clearly articulate. You've got a background that is in healthcare related, whether it's a different species or not, that's irrelevant. But you've dealt with medications in that context. So I think from that perspective, just keep doing what you're doing. All that we're really saying, and the board has a long history of taking this approach, is that if we see things that are of recent nature, we just want to see enough time and space passed so that we can see a clean record with no reoccurrence of any concerns that may raise our eyebrows. And so that's the only thing. If you can just let some time pass and keep doing what you're doing, that's really all that we're saying.
Okay. This is where I wish they still did, like, not necessarily internships, but I did work in mechanical engineering at a firm where I did coordination and like education. I wish that they did kind of like apprenticeships, but they don't do that anymore, which is sad.
Yeah, pharmacy technicians are the entry level, and in order to be able to handle medication, you need to be able to at least be permitted at that entry level. So unfortunately, there's not something like that in the field of pharmacy.
Yeah, which is understandable. That is fair. We do have to deal with controlled substances.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
not sure if we have anybody else out there. We had someone that had sent Dr. McCready and I a technology thing to look at that I'm exchanging information with them right now. I'll print a copy of the PowerPoint. It also has a video, but I've offered it this afternoon. I think at 1 o'clock, they're going to try to come in so we can work them in and view it. We've already had some kind of, hey, Brandon. We've already had some conversations about different automation tools. Some people are calling it AI, but it's basically a keystroke tool to help with the automatic, like 3-button push of processing for electronic scripts that come in that would flag for any or some ghost. Oh, yeah. I didn't come up with a name.
Yeah.
But it would function with Pioneer.
So we'll just be the first one.
Yeah. It's the first one somebody's actually sent us. And I said, I don't know, the board will make a decision about the use of it today, but I've told people if you want this, you need to get before boards to show it.
Have any of the software vendors?
No. I think the software vendors are just this is going to sound crass. I think they're ignoring it, thinking they're just going to turn it on and it's going to work, not realizing that if they turn it on, that type of automation here without approval, they're going to be in trouble immediately. We've tried to encourage them to reach out, but I think they're playing a little game of chicken. Anyway, I'll grab that for you guys. Nobody else here right now, actually. Okay, so we should have 2 of them here in the next 15, 20 minutes. I'll go grab that so you guys can look at it though. All right. Should be tabs at 6. Yep. How you doing, Ms. Cummings?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
It's a beautiful day somewhere. Not sure about here. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy. I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of who you're talking with this morning and kind of how this procedure goes. On this side of the table, we're all staff members that work here in the board offices. Myself, Dr. Brandon McCready is our Assistant Director. Ms. Vales is our Legal Counsel and Attorney. Other side of the table, we have 6 of our pharmacy board members here today that are decision makers for your application. Got Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chair of our informal conference, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Lynn Fouché, and Dr. Beth Ann Davenport. We're here today with your pharmacy technician application, and I'm going to glance here, and you did let us know that something would come back on us. Thank you for letting us know that. Here in a moment, I'll have Ms. Vales give the board members just an overview of your application. The board members have the same paperwork on their little tablets that you've got there, and then I'm sure they're going to want to talk to you about your application. At some point, they're going to come up with what they would like to do with it. They could say they would vote to approve it, deny it, table it for some period of time, reconsider at a future date, ask you for homework. I don't know what they're going to say until they say it. But since it's an informal conference, you have the opportunity to either agree or disagree with it. If you agree with it, we go forth with whatever they've asked us to do. If you disagree with it, then it's kind of your chance to either say, forget this and walk away, or to request a formal hearing before the full board at a later date. Formal hearing is generally all 8 of our board members. Instead of me sitting here explaining stuff, you'd have a hearing officer and a court reporter, and we swear everybody in, and it's just a lot more like going to court.
Yes, sir.
So I always ask, do you have any questions about how this works? And I realize you hadn't sat in that chair before. If you do have a question or want some clarification on anything later, get our attention and we'll try to help answer any questions you have.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ms. Vales?
We have brought Ms. Cummings in for consideration this morning. Couple of things. She did disclose that she had some cases expunged. What came back was on August 14th, 2010. She was arrested and charged with carrying a weapon, a Class A misdemeanor. On November 4, 2010, she was sentenced to 1 year confinement, suspended upon no new occurrences within the year, in order to pay a $500 fine and court costs, and that charge is still on her record. On April 30th, 2011, she was charged with theft of property and failure to pay. The matter was expunged, and we don't have any paperwork submitted showing the disposition of that offense. And then on December 30, 2014, she was charged with theft of property, and that matter was also expunged, and we don't have any paperwork on that one as well.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. You want to tell us, in your own words, what happened to bring about these incidences, please?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, on the first, well, I'm not sure which one, but on the first one at Walmart, I was with someone else who was stealing, and I'm assuming they caught on to them getting caught and left me with the basket, and I had no idea that, you know, what was going on at the time, and I ended up getting charged with that. They came to me and pulled me to the side and basically said that I was stealing as well with the person that got caught. Eventually got caught, but I was with that person and they were stealing.
Okay, what about this weapon charge?
We were in Little Rock. Me and a group of friends was in Little Rock, and they had a gun in the car, and nobody wanted to admit who gun it was. Of course, I said it was not mine because it wasn't, and nobody wanted to admit who weapon it was, so we all got charged with that.
Okay.
So there were 2 thefts of property?
Yes, sir.
Could, you explained one of them. Could
Yes,
you
sir.
explain the other one as well?
Yes, sir.
Please?
The other one was me. I was at Walmart. No, sorry. One was at Walmart and one was at Kohl's. I was at Kohl's and I was a young teen mom at the time, and getting clothes for my child.
And so you haven't done anything
No,
like
ma'am.
that since
No,
you learned?
ma'am, not at
you
all.
learned your
I've
lesson
learned from my mistakes. Yes, ma'am. 'Cause
And
it gets
paid
me
your
nowhere.
fines?
Yes, ma'am.
It can get expensive.
Yes, ma'am.
So what brings you to the world of pharmacy?
I would like to help others and expand my work in the healthcare field. I've recently took a medical assistant class and I got my certificate in that. And I also was taking care of my grandmother, which she had dementia. So I'm interested in helping others and learning to grow in the healthcare field.
And what are you currently doing for work?
Nothing at the moment. I just had surgery not too long. Well, not just had, but I had surgery in October and I'm still healing from that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions of this candidate?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, you're gonna get your license today.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Sir? I don't. I don't.
No, I mean, I know Conway's was capped because we played them, but. For the Whomping.
Who we have, Counselor? Miss Williams, that should be number 4. How are you doing this morning, Miss Williams? I'm doing pretty well. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the Board of Pharmacy, and I'm going to tell you kind of who you're speaking with at this table and a couple things about this procedure. First of all, on this side of it, we are staff members here at the office. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready is our assistant director. Miss Vales is our attorney. On the other side, you've got 6 of our pharmacy board members that are all decision makers here today. Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chair of our informal conference, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Lynn Frouchet, and Dr. Beth Ann Davenport. I see that we've got a pharmacy technician application for you today, and I'm thinking that you told us nothing would come back on it, but we did find some stuff, which the board members are going to talk to you about in just a minute. Okay. What I'll do is I will kick it over to Ms. Vales and she'll tell them what all we've got in your application, which they have an electronic copy on these little tablets that's the same as the paperwork you have. And then after that, the board members are going to talk to you about it. At some point, they're going to come up with what they want to do with your application. They could say they want to approve it, to deny it, to table a decision for some period of time, to say they want some other paperwork. We don't know what they're going to say until they do. Since this is an informal conference though, you can either agree or disagree with it. You don't have to do it sitting right there. You know, whatever they ask us to do, we'd put in writing and send to you if it had some other assignment. But if you agree with what they say, we just go forth and we're all happy and do whatever they've asked. If you disagree, you kind of have a choice to either say, well, forget this whole thing and walk away from it, or to request a hearing before the full board, a formal hearing, which is these 6 people plus a couple more. Instead of me sitting here, we'd have a hearing officer, we'd have a court reporter, we swear everybody in, and it's just a more official procedure like going to court, whereas this is more of a conversation. So I always ask, do you have any questions about how this process works?
No, I think you've explained it.
Okay, well, if you change your mind on that and you've got a question for us, you wave your hands, get our attention, and we'll try to help answer any questions you got. Okay, Ms. Bales?
And we brought Ms. Williams in for consideration of her application this morning. She did not disclose anything and would be on her record, as Dr. Kirtley said, but there's a few things that appeared. One of them was from June 8th, 1996. She was charged with hindering apprehension. No court records were submitted, so the disposition of that is unknown. The case has been sealed. On October 27th, 2016, she was charged and arrested with driving under the influence, imprudent speed, and failure to obey traffic by the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department. She was convicted by a jury on September 12, 2017. She was sentenced to a revocation of her driver's license for 6 months, an ignition, interlock device, alcohol assessment, $250 fine, and court costs. Then on August 28, 2021, she was arrested for domestic battery in the 3rd degree. She was not prosecuted, and then the case was sealed.
All right, good morning. How are you doing? Good. You want to tell us in your own words what happened?
Sure. So I didn't, as far as the question, because she told me that the lady I spoke with on the phone told me, because I was like, I turned in, everything regarding any charges or anything that I had, and I turned in all the information, and I wrote out my own summary. So, because I was confused as to like why I was here, and I had turned in everything, that was asked. And it was because she said I checked, no, nothing will come back. So that was a mistake. I was not unaware of that. I don't know how I did that. I don't know what I may have misunderstood. Because I obviously proceeded to send in everything, regarding. Yeah, when she told me that, I don't know how I checked no, or I guess it was a yes or no box or something. But that's what happened with that particular answer.
Okay, yeah, but what happened? What actually happened? What did you get into?
Which one are the October?
Let's start from the top with Arkadelphia, and then we'll go to Milwaukee.
Okay, Arkadelphia, the hindering apprehension, I know I was basically wrong place, wrong time, in the car with someone. And they, unbeknownst to me, got into it with someone, and they shot at the person. So next thing I know, we go back home. I'm thinking, I don't know that he shot at this person, but that's what happened, because I'm wondering when he shot at this person, off-duty firemen saw it, because I was doing laundry in Arkadelphia. I lived in Pine Bluff at the time. I was there visiting, and we were at a laundromat. And so some clothes I didn't put in the dryer, and we were taking them home. So after we got done to take them home, then police knock on the door. And how I got the hindering apprehension charge, because I didn't know, which in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that, because when they asked me, was the person at the house, I said no. I didn't think he was there. Had I, said, I don't know. I think it was explained to me it could have went different. Maybe I could have ended up getting charged with something else, although I had nothing to do with it. So that's where that charge came from. And those were, dropped. Which one was next?
The next one was Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee, if you refuse, I didn't know that I was speeding, and another cop
let's say this cop was right here, I'm on the highway, he radioed when he see me pass to another car that stopped me. And it was the day after my birthday, so there was a 6-pack unopened beer in the car. For whatever reason, I didn't like smell alcohol or anything like that. It wasn't a DWI. But when you refuse to take a test, that's an automatic year suspension of your license. So that's what happened with that. And then what she was reading, I didn't, because when you said I was convicted and I had the interlock and all this, that didn't happen. I never had an interlock. That didn't happen. The most I did that came of that when I moved here to Arkansas, I had to take a class in Pine Bluff to obtain my license. And that was the most I did regarding that. And I submitted that back to Wisconsin. So that was new to me. Yeah.
Okay, the next one is the Arkansas battery charge.
My brother, I was working at City of Faith at the time. My sister and brother got into it. We were on our way somewhere and they got into it. And I don't know if she called the police because she left the apartment. So I don't know if she called the police or a neighbor. We never was clear on who had called the police. However, so when they came, my brother, who was familiar with the system, he actually been to prison before, so he was kind of familiar with the system, and he wouldn't go outside to talk to the police. Me, knowing I did nothing wrong, I go outside, to talk to them, and I just explained how I tried to break them up, and next thing I know, I'm in handcuffs. And I started out saying where I worked because my supervisor at the time, he was a retired police chief in Marmel. And when I explained everything, to them, what happened, he was like, he said, to be honest, it sounds to me like you were, he explained how Arkansas apparently had passed a new law, and when they go out on a domestic call, somebody has to go to jail, and in that case, that somebody was me. Because he never came outside. Matter of fact, he locked the door, and he would never go out and talk to him.
Okay, well, what brings you to the world of pharmacy? Why do you want to be a pharmacy technician?
I like medicine. And I chuckle at that because I'm also a health nut. I'm not anti-medicine because my friends them like to tease me because I'm not quick to take a pill, for instance, if I have a headache or, or if I don't have to, I will, but if I don't have to. And I'm a people person. I think I'll be great at it. I think I'll be a great pharmacist.
Have you had any job prospects? Have you talked to a pharmacy?
I
about
did, and
Okay.
because of this, obviously, they had to kind of wait till this was resolved.
Okay. And you don't have any problems with drugs, alcohol? You say you were a health nut? Okay. No marijuana? Okay.
I have one point of clarification, if I could.
Sure.
I'm reading that, what I read off about the interlock device, that's in the middle of some of the paperwork that you gave me that said that's what the jury came back and said.
And I don't, because I never had that though. I didn't.
Well, I mean, maybe
I wasn't.
that changed, but that's what I'm reading from 2017, September 12th, 2017. So
What,
I can show you.
yeah, because obviously that would have been something I submitted, and obviously didn't read that part being that I kind of knew the outcome.
International interlock device for a minimum of 1 year, beginning of the day defendant issued driver's license. So that's where I got that.
So, okay, yeah, I understand. Well, I definitely believed it, what you were reading. So maybe that's what I took, the class that I took in, I don't even think it
Maybe
was.
they took that interlock device away because you moved or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that could be possible too. Yeah, because that class, it was like all sorts of people in there. I don't think it was a good alcohol class.
I'd like to ask a clarification on the Milwaukee situation. Just a moment ago, I think I heard you say that you had a 6-pack of beer that hadn't been opened, so you hadn't been drinking.
Yeah, it was a 6-pack, but it was one missing, but
So had you been consuming alcohol at that point?
I had drank that, yeah, and I admitted to drinking that, because it was just,
Does anyone else have any questions of this candidate?
I'm sorry, you've already answered this, but what, have you been doing something else for work recently?
I currently work at FedEx part-time. Still looking for a second job or one full-time job.
How long have you been with FedEx?
22, since August the 2nd, 2020.
Make a motion that we approve this application.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. You'll get your license today. Good luck. Thank y'all.
Big hug to you all. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, you too. Be careful out there.
I don't agree with that.
I agree. Good morning. How are you doing? Good.
Okay.
And number 7. How are you doing, Ms. Pfeiffer?
Good.
Glad to hear it. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of who you're speaking with this morning and how this procedure works. On this side of the table, we are all staff members here at the board. Myself, Dr. McCready is our Assistant Director. Ms. Bales is our Attorney and Legal Counsel. Okay. On the other side of the table, we've got 6 of our Pharmacy Board members with us today. Starting on the far end, Dr. Beth Ann Davenport, Dr. Lynn Fouché, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chair of our informal committee, and Dr. Brian Jolly. We're here today. You've got a pharmacy technician application with us, and you told us nothing was going to come back on that background check, but we found some stuff, which the board members are going to talk to you about in a minute. What we'll do is I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales, and she'll give an overview of your application. It's the same application that I believe our staff probably gave you a copy of out there. Did they give you some paperwork? Okay, we can go check on that, but they should have a copy of your application to give you this, the same materials that the board members are just now seeing on their tablets and stuff. At some point after she does that, they're going to want to talk to you about it. And at some point, they're going to say, here's what we want to do with this application. Whenever they make that decision or suggestion, it's an informal conference. You can either agree or disagree with it. They could say they vote to approve it, deny it, table it for some period of time and not make a decision on its day. We don't know what they're going to say until they take some action. Because it's an informal conference, you can either agree or disagree with that. And if you disagree with it, it's kind of your chance to either say, forget this and walk away, or to request a hearing before the full board, a formal hearing at a later date. Full board is these members plus a couple more, instead of me sitting here, there'd be a hearing officer, there'd be a court reporter with their little typewriter, and they swear everybody in to kind of like go into court, and it's just a more formalized procedure. But I always ask, do you have any questions on how this process works?
No.
Okay, if at any point in this you change your mind, because I realize you haven't sat in that seat before, if you've got questions for us, by all means, wave your hands, get our attention, and we'll try to help answer any questions you got. Okay, Ms. Vales?
We brought Ms. Pfeiffer in for consideration this morning. She did not disclose any arrests or citations on her application, but on November 27, 2001, she was charged with battery in the 3rd degree. She entered a plea of guilty and was sentenced to 12 months probation, fine and court cost, 1 month in jail to be served on a weekend work release. And the case was later sealed on January 30, 2006. Then on April 26, 2023, she was charged with leaving the scene of an accident and inadequate insurance during an accident and was sentenced to fine and court costs.
Okay, how are you today?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, I realized that one of these charges go back 25 years, but can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
I was at Walmart and my daughter was 4 years old. She had my wallet in her hand and I had a real bad anger issue, but I've got it all taken care of now. I'm on medicine and now. And I kind of started yelling at her and squeezed her face and started bleeding. And that's what I did.
And what about this more recent charge?
The hit and run. I pulled up on the street and I did not see this red car behind me. I seen a white car and he says I backed up into him and I didn't hear nothing. And I had just went around the block, come back, and he was talking to the cops and I stopped back by and was talking to him. I went back to where they were at.
So what brings you to the world of pharmacy?
I wanted to do something different. So I've worked at McDonald's in restaurants and I just wanted to have a different atmosphere.
And you don't have any problems with drugs or alcohol?
Nope.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Have you sought out any jobs in pharmacy yet?
Do what?
Have you sought out any jobs yet? Have you put in any
No,
applications?
not yet.
Okay.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, I work at McDonald's right now.
How long have you been at McDonald's?
Off and on since 2001. I've been there, this is my 4th time. So I've worked there in Tyson's and other restaurants. And I worked at Walmart for almost 3 years.
All right, I'd make a motion to approve this license.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. You get your license today.
Thank you.
Unless you want to disagree with me.
No, I do not disagree with that.
Thank you for coming in.
Safe travels back home.
Green.
Green, okay. Good morning, how are you doing?
Good morning, I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing great.
I gotta keep my hand up. I had a little surgery done yesterday on my thumb, so I gotta.
Oh, there you go.
So I gotta stay elevated.
Keep it above your heart. So swell up like crazy.
Yeah.
Ms. Green, I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the pharmacy board. I'm going to kind of tell you who you're speaking with this
Yes, sir.
morning and a couple things about our procedure. On this side of the table, we're staff members here at the board that work here in the offices. Myself,
Okay.
Dr. McCrady's our assistant director. Ms. Vales is our attorney and legal counsel. Everybody else you see, these are all board members. They're just now getting a copy and looking at your application on their pads. So we got Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's chair of our informal conference, Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Rodney Richmond, Dr. Lynn Fouché, and Dr. Beth Ann Davenport. In a moment, I'll turn it over and have Ms. Vales do an overview of your application to be a pharmacy technician in the state of Arkansas. And I'm flipping through here because you told us some stuff would come back. So thank you for telling us that. And at some point they'll talk to you about it. And then at some point they'll make a suggestion of what they'd like to do with your application. They could say to approve it, to deny it, to table it for some period of time, to ask you for some more paperwork. We don't know what they're going to come up with until they do. And because in informal, you have the chance to either agree or disagree with what they say.
Okay,
Not something you necessarily have to do right there in that chair today either.
okay.
But if you agree with it, we go forth with what they've asked to do.
Okay.
If you disagree, then it gives you a chance to either kind of do one or two things, say, well, forget this and walk away,
Mhm.
or request a formal hearing before the full board at a date or at a later date.
Yes, sir.
The formal hearing process is just a little bit more formal. There's a hearing officer here, a court reporter, everybody gets sworn in.
Oh, wow.
But it's these 6 people, and then we've got 2 other board members that might also be in attendance for that. So I kind of ask always, do you have any questions about how this works?
Do not.
Okay, if you change your mind, I realize you hadn't sat in that chair before, by all means, get our attention, ask any questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay.
Ms. Green is brought in here for consideration today. She did disclose that something would come back on her background check. And she submitted some records, and looking at those records, they reflect that her driver's license was suspended for DWI drugs by Walnut Ridge District Court from June 30th, 2008 to September 23rd, 2008. I don't have any documents from Walnut Ridge District Court submitted, so the disposition of that offense is unknown. On or about August 21st, 2008, she was arrested and charged with possession of controlled substance misdemeanor, possession of instrument of crime, DWI drugs, driving on suspended driver's license for DWI, left of center, no seatbelt, and contempt of court. Court records submitted show she pled guilty or was found guilty of the possession of instrument of crime and the DWI drugs, but there's no disposition on the document submitted, but it does show that she has a 0 balance. So presumably she took care of it.
Some of that is incorrect. It was actually Grant County, not Walnut Ridge and Sheridan. And then the
Suspended
they
license.
suspended it in June, because that was when I got in trouble, not August 21st. June was
So do you have 1 DWI or 2?
just one.
Okay.
Yeah. I learned my lesson after that.
So was your driver's license suspended for another reason before you got that DWI?
No, ma'am, it was only suspended one time. And when you get a DWI, they automatically suspend you for 6 months.
Yeah,
And that's all I had was that suspension. I got,
don't add up is what I was asking, because
Yes,
it
ma'am.
looks
No.
like June 30th, and it's a long time ago, but June
I know.
30th, 2008 to September it was suspended, and then you got arrested months later. Driving was
I
suspended.
got in trouble in June, and then I believe the second time I was in trouble was September, and that was driving on the suspended driver's license
Okay,
was what the second offense was.
okay, so there's 1 DWI.
Yes, ma'am, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. You want to tell us a little bit about the circumstances of this incident?
So, I was 19 years old at the time. I was hanging out with some boys I shouldn't have been hanging out with. I gave them a ride to the liquor store and we were smoking marijuana in my car on the way back. I got pulled over. The cop told me if I was honest with him, he wouldn't take me to jail. I got out, did my little field sobriety test, rode down to the jailhouse. They fingerprinted me and let me leave that day. He asked, he said if I promised to come to court, he'd get as much of the charges dropped as he could since I was honest with him, gave him everything I had. I showed up for court that day. They, instead of giving me all these charges, they gave me the DWI for drugs for the marijuana and instrument of crime because I had a marijuana pipe with me. I went to court. I paid my fines. I unfortunately was hanging out with those same boys one day and they convinced me to give them a ride when I shouldn't have been driving my car. And I got driving on suspended, which was $1,000 fine and a mandatory 10 days in jail. So I wound up serving 13 because this is such a bizarre story, but I got sick one of the times I was in jail because in Sheridan, if you have a job, they let you go to jail on your days off. So I'd work all week, check myself into jail on the weekends, and then go back to work. I was sick one of those nights, so they had asked me to leave since I could come back at any time. So a girl that I worked with went and told the judge, so I got some extra days added on because they thought I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. So I did all that fun stuff, learned my lesson, and have not had any trouble since.
Okay. You hate to have to go through that, learning
Yes.
lessons, but sometimes it
Yeah.
happens.
Well, and it's almost been 20 years ago now, so.
So what are you doing now?
I currently am a transport driver for Pro Auto. I transport cars for Enterprise. We pick up their damaged vehicles and bring them to the collision center. I also do pet sitting and house sitting. I have very large clientele on those.
All righty, well, why do you want to be a pharmacy technician?
So I have two teenagers and I've worn many hats over the last years being a single parent home. And it was just something that was offered to me through DHS since I'm a food stamp recipient. And they were, helped with that, reimbursed for the fuel and stuff. So it's kind of foolish not to try to do something to better my life, to have a more stabilized income because it's hard when you are a 1099er. So I was just trying to figure something else out and it's something that I've been interested in for a while and they allowed me to have the opportunity, so I took it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions from any other?
June of last year. I did have a marijuana card because I have chronic pain. I had a motorcycle accident in 2008. But I stopped that before I pursued this because I didn't think it was the right choice. So through lots of prayer and fasting, I gave that up and I just deal with my pain now. So
Do you surrender your medical marijuana?
yes, sir.
That's a good answer because there are some things even in our state laws on marijuana that, if it's a safety or security conscious position, meaning if you are dealing with, healthcare things or controlled substances, it's a conflict.
Yes, sir.
So most pharmacies, if they do random testing, you hit positive for it, you lose your job, you report it to us, we take your permit.
Right. And that's not a risk I was willing to take. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Good luck.
thank y'all. This was a lot less scary than I thought. I didn't know what to think. I was like, oh, this is gonna go.
Yeah.
It really was. And I'm hoarse today because they intubated me, so.
Oh,
my
yeah.
arm's hoarse in my hand, so praise God for that. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. It is April Fool's today.
Where's April Fool's? Well. She went to the. Give her a raise. To the city police. Or. Listen, the sheriff sustained it wasn't best.
Borderline feels like it.
Trying to find you. But I was. One person.
So anybody also watching knows, I'm seeing if we can get Ghost here at 12:30. And that way it doesn't interfere in case everyone shows up this afternoon, which would, we could flip a coin, it'll be nobody or everybody. Because we have one more person scheduled for 11. If they're not here in 15 minutes, we'll just take a break till 12:30 if that works. I'll pull us off for now and see if they show up.